All right, hey everybody, Meteorologist Tuttle here with you. It is about 10 minutes till 10 o'clock, and what we're going to do is a quick weather update. Kind of give you an idea of what's going on out there right now and then what you can expect overnight to see if anything has changed. If you've been following me for a while, we've been talking about the threat of severe weather. We have had a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings in far southwest Oklahoma. Had a particular supercell storm with some pretty good hail with it. A little bit of damaging wind, and at one point in time it might have tried to tighten up a bit more, had a little hook echo on it, but no tornado came out of it. Just wasn't going to happen. The atmosphere just wasn't quite right for that particular environment. Now over the next few hours, the atmosphere get a little bit better, but it's a very short window. We're going to detail that for you as well. So thanks for joining me. Make sure you like, share, follow, hit the bell, tap the bell, hit the like, all those things you got to click on all these social media platforms to make sure you get notified when I go live. That includes you guys up there on YouTube, so thanks for checking in there from Yukon. And Tiffany, good to see you. I know that music, right? Get you geared up. Also on Twitter and Periscope. Again, thanks for you guys following me on there as well. Several of you watching, and of course my patrons on the private Facebook page and the main Facebook page. Looks like over 1,000 of you tuning in just at this moment. So I also want to thank Ferguson Roof Systems. They sponsor the live feeds that I do here for you for tonight. All right, I'll tell you what, let's get on with the show here. Also, if you'll notice at the top, there is what we call open captioning, which is basically kind of like closed captioning, except I provide it for everyone across all platforms. This alleviates some confusion, alleviates a resource issue and financial issue, all that kind of stuff. I can do it all at once, and so that's kind of what I'm doing. So you can see at the top. So if you're ever in a board meeting or you got your baby in your lap trying to sleep, and you can't really turn it up loud, you can hit, you can turn it way down or hit the mute button and just read what I have to say. Most of the words will get converted right, not all of them, but the majority. It'll struggle on some of these crazy weather terms I use. We'll see how well it does, but that's the way it goes with automation. Okay, so let's move on to the weather and get you acclimated there, and we'll send you on your way after that. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit the full view. Okay, so this is what we've got here across Oklahoma. Light to moderate rainfall. Had a little thunderstorm move through across the Edmond area, Mustang, kind of the western sides of the metro. This cluster out here west of town is what's left of the cluster that was in southwest Oklahoma. That's moving to the north and east, and it doesn't have much of a bite with it compared to what it did before. So in other words, any supercell type structure with this is long gone. This is a multi-cluster garbage output. In other words, not a big threat for severe weather at all, other than just heavy rain, which can sometimes lead to brief flash flooding. And some of these probabilities that I'll have on here, it may tell me some different things that I look for while I'm doing it live. So every now and then I may stop to read something real quick, and then if there's anything that catches my eye, I'll report it back to you. But down here in Hobart, Kiowa County, that's where we've seen a lot of that rain for some of those heavier storms. We look at the kind of a bigger picture across Oklahoma. Temperatures are in the 70s and 60s still, so quite warm out there this evening. Across the rest of the body of the state, there is no severe weather at this time. In some places, it's not even raining or anywhere close to being raining. So that's good. Now, we're going to get now into the specifics on, matter of fact, before I do that, real quick, show you down here in Texas. Remember, at lunchtime today and even last night, I focused on the southern parts of Oklahoma and North Texas for tornadoes. So here in North Texas, we do have a couple of tornado warnings. This is northwest of Dallas-Fort Worth, one around Decatur, one around Graham. This is northwest of Mineral Wells. These storms, for the time being, are staying south of the Red River. It's going to take a long time for anything like this to travel north across. But again, in southern Oklahoma later on, as we head into the early part of the overnight, you're underneath that risk for some severe weather. All right, let's take a look at what that looks like as well. All right, I think it's got it on this one. Let's take a look. Here's the picture from the National Weather Service here in Norman, and they've highlighted that region of interest here across southern Oklahoma down to Wichita Falls to Ardmore. That's kind of where they put a medium tornado potential. Now, there's going to be some discrepancies on that. It's more likely for that across the river than it is into the Oklahoma side of the river. But, we're going to split hairs at that point, and there's really no need of a tornado's potential in that region. That's all we're just going to leave it at. Here's a look at the Storm Prediction Center. They've mimicked them, which, again, has the bigger concern down here in northwest Texas, just northwest of Dallas, with the enhanced risk of severe storms, whereas Oklahoma, just kind of a glancing blow, if you will, but at least something to talk about here for this evening. Now, the sounding here this evening from the Oklahoma city metro area, does show that shear is pretty favorable for rotating thunderstorms to develop. And the hail size is up around 3 inches. Let's see, I'll put this by my head. Oh, I can barely even read it. I got to work on doing some of that. So right here, in this area, right behind my eyeball, it's an issue there. Potentially for some help around 2 to 3 inches. If you can't see, I'll just tell you. All right, let's go into the situation here, how things ought to evolve. Now, this is from one of the later CAM models. This comes out just moments ago, about an hour ago. So this shows that cluster of storms kind of splitting up and moving across western Oklahoma, then one down south into southern Oklahoma. And those little darker areas are little trails where the storm had some type of helicity or spin with it, enough to either produce some hail or maybe some damaging winds, or even potentially sometimes a tornado. So those helicity tracks are very important. They're key elements where you get the strongest storms. Now, will they always track exactly where the models predict? No, but sometimes they're pretty close. What you can see, the take home here, is this is in southern Oklahoma overnight. This is around 10 to 11 to 12, so midnight hour. Again, there are a few tracks down there indicating some large hail and the potential of a tornado in southern Oklahoma. Some of that's pretty close here to central. It does kind of migrate northward into southern Cleveland County and then kind of points east from there, Pottawatomie, by around midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. Then that activity kind of falls apart. All right. Now, if we head out west, we have another round that moves in, but it's not nearly as strong as this first round. And this comes in around 3 o'clock in the morning, 4, 5, and it's nothing compared to the first round. So the first round that we have between now and about 2 o'clock in the morning is pretty much the only time we're going to have kind of in that under the window for potential tornadoes. So could we see 1 or 2 overnight? Sure, you bet. They would more likely be on the southern end of Oklahoma than anywhere else. All right, that'll move on out. There might be a little bit of redevelopment in the early morning hours around late morning. This model's not showing it, but other models have shown it. That would move into the Oklahoma in the afternoon hours. Otherwise, they got a cluster of storms down there in northeast Texas and in Arkansas later in the day on Thursday. So the deal is with us with this one is that the timing just isn't right. In other words, the storm system came in predominantly with all of its upper energy at nighttime versus during the day. And we had that good strong cold front come in a couple of days ago, and that's kind of kept us cold. So today, and literally the last few hours, we finally got to tap in to more of an unstable atmosphere, but it's too little too late. And so all we're able to squeeze out is what's out there now, which, can be enough for some folks. I mean, like I said, there's a couple of tornadoes that have been detected in northwestern Texas, but let's keep them down there, right? Now, you guys in Dallas-Fort Worth, if you're watching, those storms will gradually kind of work closer to you. So maybe the west sides, your potential is there as well. You're included in that Storm Prediction Center outlook. Matter of fact, I can show you what that looks like for the risk. All right, this is what we call the significant tornado parameter. In other words, you take a basket of indices and the model says, okay, this is the best idea where we think a tornado will happen. Well, if you notice, it's all in those brighter colors. North Texas, this is just northwest of Dallas-Fort Worth, by the way, just west of Tarrant County, on up north, so basically where it already is, into and across the Red River by around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight, down across the Ardmore area, and then just a little east of I-35, and they kind of start to vamoose right around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. All right, we got a little secondary batch of a little instability, a few more triggers there. Again, I-35 corridor, south of the metro, south of Norman, say Paoli, Pauls Valley. That's a little sweet spot that the models like for the best potential for some rotating storms. So again, a better potential for a potential tornado. So again, for the take home here, if you're late, we're just kind of focused on southern Oklahoma for the best risk, I guess you would say, or the highest risk of seeing a tornado or two overnight. I can show you also, let me go back to this map here. Okay. So this little squiggly line, let's see, that box, it's funny as the curse doesn't show on this as it does on my other deal, which is irritating me. Why is that? Alright, well, the little squiggly line west, you're not going to be able to tell this, I'll just tell you verbally. The wind shear is weak at certain levels, and that prevents an updraft from sustaining itself for very long. It keeps continuing to collapse and recycle. As long as a storm is unstable within itself, where it's chaotic and a little more unorganized, it can't produce a tornado. It's spending too much of its energy trying to get organized. And it'll get organized briefly, and then the lack of the significant wind shear in all levels allows it to collapse again. Then it has to start over. So there's very small windows. You get a small window of time before a tornado. What's good is, especially at nighttime, because this is the worst time to ever have a tornado anyway, A, you want them to be weak. B, you want them to be short-lived. So I couldn't guarantee a weak one, but the way the data looks like and the way the current atmosphere is right now, they would be a short-lived one. In other words, not one of those that lasts, half hour or an hour or anything like that. It'd be more one of those that lasts maybe just a couple of minutes and that's it. Now, obviously a lot of damage can be done in a couple of minutes, but considering the area may be over for tonight, there's a lot of open land, pasture land, so that's usually good news. Oklahoma is filled with pasture land, and that is the best news I have for you, because a lot of these tornadoes, it's like the tree falls in the woods, and it's great. If we didn't have storm chasers all over the place, half the time we probably wouldn't know they were out there, which is one of those things. But funny thing is, Doppler radar technology kind of filled in the gaps of that, so we're actually able to see a lot more than we used to. So the overall count of tornadoes in general terms will continue to go up, especially for the really small ones. We're getting really good at the technology to pick up those small ones, where we used to miss them all the time back in the early days of meteorology. You can only see the big ones. So that's kind of changing things in the way it skews the data. So, over time, you may see this uptick and jump in tornadoes, especially the weaker ones, EF0, EF1s. Keep in mind, those are going to be called QLCS tornadoes, quasi-linear convective systems. They're on the leading edge of squall lines. So they're not supercell based, but they are a violently rotating column of air, which is what a tornado is called, on the leading edge. And it's just from wind shear, split direction. So we have to count them. Technically, it's a tornado. It's just not a supercell tornado. And we're able to pick those out a lot better with Doppler radar, and of course with more storm spotters, that makes that easy. So you're going to see an uptick in those numbers. Doesn't mean anything's changed, it just means we're able to pick them up better. Like last year was an example. We had 149, tornadoes across the state, which was one of the most ever. And I'm thinking, we didn't have that many tornadoes. I'm sitting here scratching my head going, we only had a few supercells that year. And it was true, but the Weather Service went out there and bless their pea picking hearts, they went out there and literally picked out every little spot on the ground where a little weak tornado hit, which is what they're supposed to do. But that's a lot of man hours. But because of that, because the radar picked them out so well, they knew exactly where to go to look for the damage, and it would just be trees, and that counts. So that upped the total, and there needs to be an asterisk on that, because otherwise people are going to lose their mind thinking that tornadoes are now going to be all over the place everywhere. And in reality, those little baby ones, I call them baby ones, have always been there. We just weren't able to see them or detect them. And usually, that's the old water cooler talk the next day, or sitting down with coffee and go, I think I had a tornado move through. And you go, you did? And you say, yeah, that wind, it picked up, and I got stuff over here and stuff over there. There was no warning. That was the old days. Farmers out there talking. That was a horrible farmer impersonation, but you don't get the idea. Maybe it wasn't even a farmer. Maybe it was just an Oklahoman. Maybe that was me in the younger years. All that slang. It's funny, when I grew up in Texas, so I had that Texas Southern slang going. It's still a little bit there, but as a kid, I don't know. You pick up what you hear and what you go with. So you're going to hear a little bit of it in me from time to time, but I try to get some of that Southern talk out, more of the city slicker talk in, just to kind of mix it up, keep you off guard. No, I'm just goofing. Anyway, so long story short, we've got a few more storms here for tonight, and like I said, it's not a great threat, but there should be at least maybe a tornado or two across the southern parts of the state. Otherwise, hail up to about 2 to 3 inches in diameter is possible through a small window up to about 2 o'clock in the morning. And then after that, it's just going to be garden variety thunderstorms that continue to kind of roll through and move east and out of here. Most of them, I think by the daybreak hours, I think we might see a secondary line on the front, try to get go late morning to early afternoon across eastern Oklahoma. So there's a little slight potential for severe weather with that, but not like a tornado type deal. It'd be more like wind or hail, your typical thunderstorm here in Oklahoma for the springtime. All right, so I don't know. I just sat on that map for a really long time, which I normally don't do, but I got sidetracked, and I don't know. I was all over the place tonight. Let's see here. Let me do something. That's the button I wanted. I swear, sometimes it's like squirrel. And I was like, what was I talking about? Where was I going? All right, let me check real quick. All right, you guys on YouTube, by the way, I want to thank you for stopping by and for following me on that platform. Remember, you got a YouTube app you can put up on your television so you can broadcast this. It's in 1080 HD, so it'll look good on your television screen, your big 90-incher. So it's be in high def. And same thing for Twitter and Periscope. And you guys obviously on your phones for that. That comes in high def as well. And then for the Facebook guys, there are actually Facebook apps now you can load up. Or you can Chromecast it, or you can Mirrorcast it. You can Apple TV Play it, whatever. There's all kinds of ways to put this kind of stuff up on the big screens. You're not having to look at your tiny phone for all this. And Candace wanted to know how far north for the tornado risk, and it kind of cuts off before it even gets to the metro, Oklahoma City, so it's kind of south. I'm not going to rule out something freaky happening here, but the data all says south and well south. In other words, south in Norman, so southern third of the state. You might want to say that, kind of anchored around the I-35 corridor. That's where I would put the best potential. Let's see. Dottie says, no hell for Oklahoma City. Yeah, even the hell parameters, all that kind of stuff, really drops off quite a bit once you get farther and farther north, which is kind of the good news. Oklahoma City is kind of on the northern fringe of all of that anyway. I'm just scrolling through your comments real quick. Thanks again to my patrons for watching. Let's see, and for your support, by the way. Audio's behind video. Audio's ahead of video. Sometimes if it's kind of out of sync, log out, log back in, or switch devices, or you can switch platforms. If you're on Facebook, you go to YouTube or go to Twitter, follow me there, or try the main page of Facebook. There's various ways you can do that if your device is a little laggy. Switch to Wi-Fi or turn Wi-Fi off. Maybe your Wi-Fi is buggy. It's impossible for me to know, each particular case, but trying all those steps will usually solve the issue. So how does it look for Lake Murray? Stacy wants to know. Woo! Buckle down there. You got some rough storms moving through tonight. Let's see. Whitney, no, south of more. There is no best potential for more of anything. So I just looking at the National Weather Service discussion. They were talking about the sounding from this evening and how it had just a little bit of a cap in it, a little bit of what they call a worm nose at several thousand feet up, and that kind of limits the production of storms. And the models had that, but they had it kind of eroding and weakening a little bit for the small window of time through about 2 in the morning, which is why we should see at least some surface-based storm activity around here. So there you go. All right. So my plan is for the rest of the evening, kind of hang back. I'll keep an eye on things off and on. If it looks like there's going to be a tornado, I'll jump into like one of those live weather hits. If not, I'm going to let the my weather app handle it. It's called AT's Weather to Go, and it predicts tornadoes before they occur. Kind of like me. I'm kind of looking at the radar, going, "Is it going to do it? Let me think. It's got this. It's going to do this, and I go, "Okay, that should do it." So the app does the same thing, but on a artificial intelligence side. So versus my intelligence, it's artificial intelligence. We'll see who wins out there, weather app. But it does a basket of indices and stuff, and it tries to predict when it'll happen and give you a confidence scale, if you will, like from 0 to 10. If you get a BTI number, like a twisting storm alert, you get a BTI number that's around a 0, 1, or 2, odds are you don't have anything to worry about. All right, but now if it jumps from a 1 to a 3 to a 5, that means it's ramping up and you better pay attention. Now once it gets over about a 7, you better hit the deck. All right, 7, 8, 9, 10, just go for shelter. Sometimes in those 5 or 6s it can go either way. On those particular cases, you at least need to be heading toward the shelter, at least getting things together so you can jump in real quick. But otherwise, typically if it's less than a 5, so 4 or anything like that, it's usually close to producing a tornado, but not quite. That's kind of the best way to look at it. It takes very, very weird conditions to get a tornado out of a 1 or 2. It almost doesn't happen here. We're more of the gusto 7, 8, 9, 10 type tornado atmosphere setups for us. So there you go. And then if we get storms that are 2 and 3 in the morning, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm probably going to be asleep. So you'll need my app will help. NOAA weather radio, if you don't have one, you need to get one of those. They're cheap. I've got a post on my wall. It's about 2 or 3 posts down, maybe 4 or 5. Maybe I lied to you because I've done a few extra laps this week. It'll be a link to where you can get a NOAA weather radio from Amazon. I do have to caution you, though, from Amazon, in case you haven't heard, they're going to cut shipments that have nothing to do with medical supplies or necessities, kind of in that nature. So anything, like a NOAA weather radio, back order maybe a couple of weeks. They're going to try to get things back to normal. I think they said April 6th as far as everything goes. But let's just say you probably won't get prime shipping, 1-day shipping, even though you're going to click that button. It may take another week or 2. But that's a little tip for you for doing a little Amazon shopping while we're all sitting at home. Let me think, anything else? If you've never watched my severe weather coverage, it's different than the guys on television. I was there. I was once in that role, and you have to do a lot of things you don't want to do because that's the nature of the business. There's an old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. So that you can use your imagination of how things need to be at a very high level of anxiety and fear and gotcha, So I'm the complete opposite of that here. Be very laid back. To be very scientific. I'm going to tell you what's happening and why, and I'm going to tell you if it has conditions to do something or if it doesn't. We'll look at historical precedents for the atmosphere, and we'll see if that ends up being something that could produce a tornado. We'll talk about that. So it's completely different. It's almost laid back. You can almost grab a glass of wine and go, let's watch some tornado coverage and just be nice and relaxed and chilled out. And you're thinking, how is that possible? You just wait and see. That's what I hear all the time when I do these big weather events, and you guys will come up to me and go, I am so glad that you are like a voice of reason around here. Those other guys get me so worked up, I can't take it. And so I'm glad to hear the positive feedback and that what I'm offering is a lot different and worth watching. So I can tell you, if you remember long enough, you've been in Oklahoma City long enough, the last person that was anywhere close to kind of how I do this stuff is Ray Mitchell. He was probably the most laid-back guy covering severe storms that I've ever met. And I was still much younger, so I was still a little more on the hyper level, where he would just kind of calm down there, Aaron, a little bit. I'd be like, come on, there's a tornado. He's like, yeah, there's a tornado. We're going to get to it, Anyway, so it was just funny. But I learned a lot from him about how you don't have to, turn into a circus to cover tornadoes. And it took a lot to get him worked up and excited over that. So that was a positive. And since he left this market, it's gone full-blown nutso. So I'm filling a niche that needed to be there, and it's working out. So anyway, so that's a little latest on that. Let's see. I need you to update the Decatur storm. So that's way down in Texas, across the border. This is northwest of Dallas. I can go look at that real quick, see if anything's changed with it. Hold on a second. So we talked about how that would eventually cross over the Red River, but it's going to be a minute because it's pretty far south of there. All right, let's take a look. Hold on a second. I need to switch radar sources too, so give me a second here. Okay. All right, so this is radar coming out of Dallas-Fort Worth. So this particular tornadic storm, there's only one left. The other one died out as far as the tornado part of it goes. This one's still going on, and it'll be heading up toward Cook County, and then eventually into Thackerville, what's left of it, if it still holds together. Just keep that in mind. The tornado signature that was with it is already over. it's already died out. So it's going to have to recycle to produce another tornado, it looks like. Let's see the latest on this. It's a generic tornado warning, radar indicated, which means there's no storm spotters that have confirmed it anymore, which was opposite the case. There's a ton of storm spotters basically right under the thing. Yes, they're crazy. Yes, it's in the middle of the night and you barely see. Doesn't stop them. They are hardcore. Anyway, this storm is moving, let's see, northeast at 35. It's 12 miles north of Decatur. So that's going to be at least an hour before it even gets with the remnants of it into Oklahoma. It's going to pass, it'll clip Thackerville, run around on the river, and then come out on the other side around Powell and Kingston and Medill. And we'll see if it's recycled by then. If it tries to produce another tornado, it'll turn more to the right, which means the whole thing will kind of go more easterly rather than northeasterly. So it'll kind of hug the river even more. And they may end up coming out more toward Durant or something, but that's so far down the run. That's like 3 hours away. A lot can happen between now and then. The whole thing could just vaporize. But anyway, so that's the latest on that. So don't worry too much down there right now. We'd have to get new storms to develop and give it time for these others to cross over. But again, the southern Oklahoma, from really Paws Valley down to the river, is kind of where the sweet spot is in the model data to get a couple of tornadoes to try to develop in some of those stronger storms tonight. All right, up to about 2 o'clock in the morning. That was your quick recap as far as the main threat goes. Oklahoma City, yeah, maybe loud at times. Get some heavy rain, might get a little bit of small hail. But the tornado threat is very, very low here compared to down south. So I won't say zero or nothing, because as soon as I do that, some freak thing will happen. But my concern is more south into southern Oklahoma at this point in time. Okay, I think that was all she wrote. Okay, so thanks for watching the broadcast tonight. Like I said, I'll kind of watch things behind the scenes for a while, and if it turns out things get a little hairy and I'm still awake, or I can manage to stay awake with a caffeine shot or something, I'll do some more coverage, but it'll only be for the tornadoes if they actually do occur. If I don't, you'll need to use my weather app and a NOAA weather radio to keep you safe. Sirens will sometimes sound in your area if they are, of course, near your area. They're not guaranteed, though, to work, and they're not guaranteed to wake you up because they're made for outdoor, not indoor. And then last but not least, you got the television coverage as well. Those guys should be on. They'll have somebody on overnight because they do three shifts. In other words, a three-day split. So there'll be somebody overnight watching radar. So as long as they don't fall asleep, they should be able to cover stuff live and update the maps on the screen and all that kind of stuff. So there's various ways to get your weather information. And if I go live, as long as you hit the get notified through YouTube, I would do all of it. I'd follow me on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, because not everyone is going to notify you every time I go live, because those are the way the algorithms work. They're never going to give you what you want all the time. So, but between the three, you spread them out, odds are you're going to get notified on your device, and then that way you know when I'm going live. And that goes for any time, not just the tornado coverage, but also like when I do these updates and stuff like that. They're very frustrating to work with as a creator, because if I'm trying to reach you, and that's the platform I'm using, and then it doesn't work half the time, to notify you that I'm going live, that's frustrating. Because remember, I've got 135,000 or so followers just on Facebook alone, and not all 135,000 get notified. And that, to me, it's like, really, Facebook? But it is what it is. I got to work with it. All right, so that's it for me. Thanks again for watching it, and be safe out there tonight if I don't talk to you. And we'll probably do the live sometime later this week if I don't do one tonight. There is a freeze coming up on Saturday morning, and I'll end up putting a blog together, kind of update that as well. All right, be careful. Good night.